So, I want to make a video about something that I know I personally have been struggling with, have struggled with in the past, something that I feel like is not talked about that much. And firstly, I want to start this video off by saying that I am so proud of us as a society, as a community, that I've been seeing so much stuff online. I've been hearing conversations like amongst people around me that we're now starting to become curious and reflective about ourselves. And this brings up this word trigger or trauma. These are words that I hear thrown around a lot, like, oh, I have a trigger here. Oh, there's trauma there. And that is so, so beautiful. And I'm so excited that like people are starting to wake up and ask questions about themselves and like, where did certain things come from? But there's something specifically that I don't see and I don't hear that much surrounding these conversations. And it's something that I know I've struggled with. And I wanted to dive into just kind of some of my reflections about this certain topic. So, nobody nobody really talks about like, okay, what are we supposed to do with these triggers? I think people kind of have just decided, okay, well, I have this trigger or I have this trauma, and that's kind of it. But I want to talk about, I'm going to talk with you guys about what I have found that has been helpful for me when dealing with trauma or triggers, because I think that there's like a next step to all of this process. If you're on some sort of like a healing journey or self-development journey, or if you're just a human being at all trying to grow, this information is really important. So, as I mentioned, like a lot of people are able to identify at this point in their lives triggers and traumas that they have. They can say, oh, she triggered me, or oh, he triggered me, or that triggered me. And that's really great that we are able to identify that. But what are we supposed to do with those triggers? Are we just supposed to sit with them and say, okay, cool, I have a trigger. I don't want to get triggered. I need to stay away from the things that trigger me. No, that's actually the opposite of what we're supposed to do. Yes, we're taking the first step to acknowledge what our triggers are, but we're not supposed to just be these human beings, that these souls that are just broken left and right all over the place. Like, we come here to experience life, and I, just me being who I am and trying to always grow and be better, I will not sign up to think that we just have triggers and that's just it, and we just have traumas and that's just it. I personally think that it's great that we are now, people are starting to have the conversation about like, this is my trigger or my trauma, but what are we going to do with that stuff to be able to move forward, to grow, to be able to flourish and not be handicapped by our triggers and our traumas? So, as I've tried to like integrate, as I am integrating back into like society, into a city, being around people who maybe aren't on like this like healing journey, I've been experiencing a lot of triggers. It's natural. Like, whenever we're in these communities, these super spiritual personal development communities, it's a little bit easier, maybe I would say, because you have a huge community of people that are working on themselves for the most part. That's a whole other topic. But when you kind of integrate back into these societies, into the city where not everybody is on these journeys, these healing journeys, it can be triggering. And not to mention the energy in cities itself, just the vibration, the energy is so much heavier here than being out in nature. So I personally have been getting a lot of triggers, and I'm like, okay, honestly, coming back here into the city, getting triggered all the time has really made me question like, how much growth did I really do? Because I'm getting triggered left and right. But recently I was listening to a talk about a lot of different things, but one of the topics that got brought up was this really beautiful concept that I was presented. And basically the teacher was saying that whenever we have a physical wound, we notice it, we're aware of it, we tend to it, we don't get angry at it, like for not healing fast enough. We're just aware and we just kind of allow it to do its thing. We dress it like the wound. We dress the wound properly. We do all the things to make sure that this piece of us is going to heal. And she brought up, why do we not do that with our emotional wounds, with our traumas, with our triggers? Why do we either just, one, accept that they are there and just like, oh, that's a trigger of mine, just like leave it alone. Or two, I know for me personally, whenever I start getting triggered and maybe I behave in a way that I'm not super proud of because I was triggered, I very much am very judgmental of myself, and I beat myself up about like, oh, I thought that I had grown through that, or oh my gosh, I can't believe I handled that right. And this teacher was talking about like, why don't we treat our emotional wounds the same way that we treat our physical wounds, and just notice them, do the things that we need to do in order to work through them and allow them to heal, and not be judgmental of these emotional wounds that we have, these triggers, these traumas. And it really got me thinking about like how much I know me, beat myself up about like if I don't behave the best way. If I'm like, oh my gosh, I raised my voice in that situation, or oh my gosh, I got more angry than that situation like should have allowed, or whatever. Like I personally beat myself up, and I was thinking about, something that we learn through and in meditation practices and mindfulness practices is just to observe our thoughts and observe like, okay, this came up, that came up, but to stay completely neutral with whatever things that come up during meditation. That is like one of the key things that you learn through meditation, is just noticing and being neutral about whatever comes up. And it got me thinking about like this statement that this teacher made, and like, why do we judge or just accept our triggers, our traumas as they are? Like, we really should just, in my opinion, like what I'm trying to do right now is just, if I have a trigger that comes up, just invite it in, become curious about it. Okay, where is this coming from? And not have any judgments about it at all, but just continuously like noticing it every single time it comes up, continuously being curious about it. And eventually, what I'm finding is that the more that I become curious, the more that I notice just when I get triggered or traumas, it's allowing me to really be able to be a lot more reflective about like where some of these things are coming from, and how can I maneuver around trying to like have a relationship with this thing that maybe has caused trauma to me or triggered me, instead of just like, oh, I'm triggered and oh, you're triggering me, and just kind of like leave it alone. We really need to become curious about our triggers, our traumas, and notice them, but be neutral to them if we're trying to like get through them, grow. We don't need to be so hard on ourselves whenever we get like triggered by something, or if maybe we don't handle something in like the best way. Like, as I mentioned earlier, we came to this experience, this human experience, our souls did, in order to really experience life. And I'm just not one to sign up and say that this topic around triggers and traumas, that we just need to put that on our shirt as like a badge of honor. This is a trauma of mine, this is a trigger of mine, and just leave it there. Like, I really think that we came here to evolve and to grow. And something, as I mentioned, just going through my personal development journey, that I really beat myself up a lot about just things that I thought that I overcame. And the truth is that our triggers and traumas and all of that fun stuff, our core wounds, like, as much as people like this topic of like my healing journey, I'm like going down a spiritual journey, like whatever people want to say, like our traumas, like our core wounds, like they aren't ever really going to go away. Like, we just develop a different relationship with them. We're more aware of like, oh, I have this core wound about like scarcity, like that there's never going to be enough. And then because of that core wound, I have these triggers. Like these things, like we may we should develop a different relationship with them and invite them in, become curious about them, not judge them. We develop a different relationship about them instead of just ignoring them and being triggered all the time. Like most people have no idea what their core wounds are. But I really, really feel like we came to this human experience to really experience life and grow and evolve. And the quicker, sooner, the more we can be curious about where our triggers are coming from, understanding what our traumas are, we can develop this different relationship with ourselves, with them, and be able to move and grow through it. And I really think that for me, as being somebody who's been super triggered over the past couple of months, my core wounds has just come right back up to the surface, like things that I thought that I had overcame. I'm just now realizing that like my core wounds aren't ever really going to go away. It's just like a scar on my body. Like it's going to heal, but it's not going to completely ever go away. I'm still going to be sensitive in that area. Just like our physical bodies are, our emotional bodies are literally the same exact thing. So I wanted to just make this video about dealing with our triggers, our traumas, our core wounds, and just the concept of let's go a step further. Instead of just being able to identify what our triggers and traumas are, let's be able to go a step further and say, okay, what do we do with them now? What do we do with the fact that we have that core wound? We need to notice it. We need to be curious about it, and we need to stay neutral about it. This is why I'm so big about meditation. Like, meditation is not just a practice to like quiet your mind for 10 minutes or 30 minutes a day. Like, it literally is a roadmap for life. There's a reason why people that you see that are either successful in business or successful in their relationships or successful in just like their own relationship with themselves, like there's a reason why you'll see a pattern of people have some sort of rituals that they do on a daily basis that include meditation or prayer or whatever version of that. But all of it is really the same. And I'm just such a big believer in meditation because it has taught me so many things about life, not just being able to quiet my mind for 10 minutes or 30 minutes a day. Like, it has been a roadmap for just the way that I need to operate with myself and with others and just with the world. So I want to know in the comments below, like, what are you doing right now with your triggers and traumas in order to work through them? Or are you somebody who has gotten to the step of like, now you are aware of them, but you don't know what to do with them? Like, I want to know in the comments where you're at with your journey. We're all at different places in our journey, and where I'm at right now in my journey is learning to become neutral and non-judgmental about my own personal triggers. So comment below. I want to see what you guys are experiencing right now.